Hello and welcome to the Premier Football Podcast. In this week's video, we're taking a look at 5 players whose contracts expire at the end of the 2020-21 season. This means that come January, they can negotiate new deals with other European clubs, and if a club does come in for them, it's highly likely that their value will be much lower than it would be were they tied down to long-term contracts. And I've selected players that are either playing in the Premier League or are heavily linked with moves to the Premier League. Now, don't forget, as always, before we get started, to smash a like on the video, to share the content around, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and subscribe to our social media pages as well. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Now, it wasn't always possible for players to move for free. Not until 1995, thanks to Belgian player Jean-Marc Bosman. An undistinguishable career aside, this is no doubt Bosman's claim to fame, and indeed the free transfer is named after him, called the Bosman transfer. In 1990, Bosman was plying his trade for Belgian side Standard Liège when he wanted to move to French side Dunkirk at the end of his contract. Now, at the time, clubs had to pay a fee for players even at the end of their contracts. Liège rejected the fee from Dunkirk. Dunkirk refused to pay the asking price, and as a result, Bosman was forced to remain at Liège. However, seeing as his contract had expired, he was no longer considered a first-team player, and his wage was greatly reduced. Bosman took his case to the European Court of Justice in Luxembourg, and in December 1995, he won. The consequences have been profound, meaning that players can now run down their contracts and leave on a free transfer, signing a new contract with a high signing on fee and a higher salary than they would get if they were transferred for a fee, because of course the club they're joining do not have to pay a transfer fee. In addition, legislation was brought in, meaning that players in their final 6 months of their contract could negotiate and sign pre-contractual agreements with other European clubs. Important to note that they cannot do so with clubs from the same country that they are currently plying their trade in. Now to the players, and we're starting in sunny Liverpool with Georginio Wijnaldum, centre midfielder who has made over 200 appearances for the club in all competitions in his 4 and a bit years at the club. Now, Wijnaldum is currently paid £75,000 a week. Comparing with the competition in centre midfield in the form of Jordan Henderson on £140,000 a week, James Milner also on £140,000 a week, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and Naby Keita on £120 a week, Fabinho on £100,000 a week, and Thiago Alcantara on £192,000 a week. And Georginio Wijnaldum is severely underpaid in comparison to these other players. Indeed, he is the lowest paid of all Liverpool's senior central midfielders. Wijnaldum is a key part of Liverpool's team, and he has been ever since he signed for the club back in 2016. And it is not unreasonable for him to be looking for wage parity in line with Henderson and Milner, taking him up to in and around £140,000 a week. He's of course been linked with a move to Barcelona. However, while they are currently managed by his compatriot and former Netherlands boss Ronald Koeman, it is unlikely that they will be managed by Koeman come the end of the season, with the team currently 7th in La Liga and Koeman never really seeming to be a long-term fit at the club. So, what are his options? He can agree a new deal with Liverpool. I think that this is probably the most likely option, or he could sign a pre-contractual agreement with another European club. And the club that I think might be in for him, a club that is renowned for free transfers and renowned for signing quality centre midfielders on free transfers, is Juventus. And I think he'd be a fantastic fit over there. That being said, they do have a plethora of central midfielders already, but they could of course move some of them on and bring in a ready-made superstar in Wijnaldum for free. If you were to move to another Premier League club, I think that he'd do extremely well for Arsenal and Tottenham. Next, Michail Antonio, the versatile West Ham forward, currently earning £70,000 a week, and luckily enough for West Ham, they have an option to extend his contract to the summer of 2022. Now, Antonio is 30 years of age. He can play anywhere across the front line. He can even play at wing back, and he has been West Ham's best player over the past 12 to 18 months. Indeed, his goals were vital in keeping them in the Premier League last season, and he started extremely well this season, scoring 3 in 6 already. Now, in my opinion, I see Antonio tying down a new contract with West Ham. Indeed, there have been reports coming out that a new deal is close, and it just makes sense for all parties. He's a key player for them. Is he going to be able to get £100,000 a week at another Premier League club? I can't see one of the top 6 or top 8 coming in for him. So yeah, you'd have to say that for all parties, a new contract does seem to be the most logical choice. I do, however, think that he would be a very, very good fit for Nuno Espirito Santo's Wolverhampton Wanderers. Next up, and the first player plying his trade outside of the Premier League, David Alaba, versatile Austrian defender slash midfielder, of course, playing for Bayern Munich. Alaba is one of Europe's best players. He has played 400 times for Bayern Munich over the past 10 seasons, winning 20 trophies, including 9 Bundesliga titles and 2 Champions Leagues. Alaba can of course play at centre back, left back, and anywhere in midfield. And as I mentioned before, he is a really top player. Currently earning £165,000 a week, you would expect him to be able to command in and around £200,000 a week should he move to the Premier League, and he's been linked with both Chelsea and, I'm told by my very good friend Rafe, Liverpool, although I couldn't find any information about the Liverpool transfer rumours online. That being said, I think with Virgil van Dijk injured, I think with Wijnaldum's contract situation up in the air, I think that Liverpool could do a lot worse than to move for David Alaba in January. And with his contract expiring at the end of the season, he would probably be available for in and around £20 million, the same fee they agreed with Bayern Munich for Thiago Alcantara this summer. And David Alaba would be phenomenal for Liverpool. He is quick, he is technically excellent, and he can play in a number of positions. This is, of course, something that's very attractive to a manager like Jurgen Klopp. You could think of the likes of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain can play in any midfield position or as a wide forward. The same for Naby Keita, the same for Fabinho, who can play defensive midfield, central midfield, or centre back as well. Joe Gomez, of course, can also play centre back or full back. So Klopp is a manager who likes players who can fill in multiple positions, and Alaba could really fit the bill. If, however, Chelsea and Marina Gravalskaya, who is of course their director over there, move more quickly, then that would be an absolute coup for Chelsea, and he would walk into their defence. He at centre back, I think, and he would be absolutely fantastic for them, and that would be a great piece of business for Chelsea, and just show them to be moving in the right direction again after some very impressive transfer business during the summer. So we just have to wait and see how this one plays out. I find it very strange that that Bayern Munich are letting his contract run down, but clubs don't always hold all the cards. That is the influence of the Bosman transfer, giving players more power. Next up, everyone's favourite Arsenal player, Mesut Ozil. And what can I say about Mesut Ozil that has not been said before? Arsenal's highest earner on £350,000 a week, frozen out under manager Michail Arteta in a controversial move that saw him left out of both the Premier League and Europa League squads. And of course, this decision has backfired in a big way on Arteta. Ozil is a popular member of the dressing room, and a lot of players would have been disappointed that this happened. Of course, he wasn't getting in the squad before that, but he hadn't been officially excluded from the squad lists, meaning that under no circumstances can he be picked in the Premier League and in the Europa League. And Arsenal are playing some of the most turgid, awful football that they have ever done, and currently sit 14th in the Premier League with 13 points from 10 games. 10 goals from 10 games and a negative goal difference, and the most obvious flaw to their game is a lack of creativity. And what does Ozil provide? If nothing else, he provides creativity. I think that there's absolutely no question that he could do a better job than the likes of Joe Willock, Danny Ceballos and Willian have been doing in recent times. And at 32 now, he could be a coup for a club on a free transfer at the end of the season. I do think it's highly unlikely that he leaves in January. He has stated many times that he's going to see out his contract at Arsenal. But at the same time, I can't see Arteta including him in the squad come January, when you're allowed to rename your Premier League and Europa League squads, if Arteta is still in the job. What if a new manager comes in and starts to try to integrate Ozil back into the squad? I do think that it would be impossible for him to be rewarded with a new contract at Arsenal. There are obviously political issues at play and disagreements between the club's hierarchy and Ozil. So where does that leave him? It would seem that he's going to move for free at the end of the season. And while I think that Ozil would be an astute signing for any club who could pay in excess of £150,000 a week to him, which I think is probably about par, he's not going to get £350,000 a week anywhere except China. But of course he's burned those bridges. That is not an option for him anymore for reasons that I have discussed in the past. So the most likely option is that he goes to Europe. Obviously, he is a Fenerbahce fan. He's been linked with them before, and it wouldn't be surprising if he signed for them on a free transfer. He could also perhaps go to either of the Milan clubs. Inter Milan in particular like taking on players in their early 30s who have been there and done it and proved themselves. Antonio Conte has of course signed the likes of Alexis Sanchez, Ashley Young and Arturo Vidal in the last 12 to 18 months. Perhaps more likely though is that he goes to the MLS and sees out his career maybe in sunny Los Angeles. Last but not least, Lionel Messi, arguably the best player in the world, and of course out of contract with Barcelona at the end of the current season, and of course unsettled at the club. He pushed for a move, handed in a transfer request at the end of the summer, but this was rejected and he stayed a Barcelona player. Both Messi and Barcelona have underperformed so far in La Liga. Messi has registered just 4 goals in 9 games for the club, which, although decent for some players, is not at the level that Messi has set over the course of his career. And Barcelona themselves are in 7th place in La Liga, with manager Ronald Koeman undoubtedly under severe pressure. Messi is really unhappy. He is under no obligation to stay beyond the end of the current season, but here's the thing. He earns £500,000 a week. There are a handful of clubs that could pay this salary and provide him with the high level of elite European football that he needs. They are Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain, Juventus, and Bayern Munich. Manchester United could afford him as well. They're also playing Champions League football, but they are just not the powerhouse that they once were under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Let's look at each of these clubs individually. Juventus, I think, although they have proven that they can afford really, the creme de la creme in Cristiano Ronaldo, it's difficult to imagine them being able to afford both Ronaldo and Messi. So Ronaldo would have to be moved on in some way, shape or form. So I think that one is going to be tricky. Bayern Munich, similarly, they pay Robert Lewandowski close to Messi's salary, and I think it would be very difficult for them to pay Messi's salary on top of Lewandowski's. I could be wrong, but I just can't see that happening. It doesn't quite strike me as the right move. Paris Saint-Germain, they could undoubtedly pay his salary, perhaps even double it. However, is that the right move? Lovely city, Paris, obviously winning trophies domestically every year, competing in the Champions League at last season, beaten in the final, but it's not that. I just don't see Ligue 1 as the place for Lionel Messi. It was for Neymar. I could be wrong, but I just don't see it. For me, Manchester City looks like the obvious destination, and they were the club that were most heavily linked with him during the summer transfer window. Pep Guardiola is obviously manager, and City's director of football is Chiki Begiristain. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Don't give out to me too much if I haven't. Catalan is not a language that I'm all that familiar with, and I've given his name my best shot. So under Guardiola and Begiristain, Messi came of age at Barcelona and became the superstar that we know him to be today. So that connection, I think, could be absolutely vital. As well as that, City are competing in every single English domestic competition on an annual basis and in the Champions League. And as well as that, they can obviously pay his wages, being the oil-rich club that they are. Messi also suits the style of play that Pep Guardiola has instilled at Manchester City, and he could play in a number of different positions for them. He could play in the vacated David Silva role that so far Phil Foden and Bernardo Silva quite haven't come to grips with or replaced, and Messi would obviously be a serious upgrade on that, although I do think that Foden is an excellent prospect. He could also play in behind the striker, be it Sergio Aguero if he agrees a new contract. I don't think so. I'll mention him in just a minute. Or he could, of course, play as a striker, as a false nine, and he would do that job far better than the likes of Ferran Torres and Raheem Sterling have done in recent seasons. For me, this makes the most sense, and it would be a massive coup for City if they could pull it off. This means that they would have not only convinced Pep Guardiola to do what he didn't do at Bayern Munich and sign a new contract, they would have signed arguably the best footballer of all time in Lionel Messi, and that could be a very exciting time for Manchester City. Now, I did of course mention Aguero. His contract is up at the end of the season. He is obviously a massive player, and there are other players that I have left off this list, but Aguero has always stated that he wants to go back to Argentina when he finishes his career at Manchester City, so I just don't see him joining another Premier League club or going to another elite European club. Guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to smash a like, share the content around, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let me know your thoughts on the piece that I've done today, and I'll see you next time. Peace.